Nothing like a little Vintagatan to get us going. Oh, we're live. We are live. I'm looking at it. It's on. It's on the zitter.
It's so incredibly beautiful.
The technology that we have at our fingertips is astounding, Bill.
It is amazing. They have not invented this in South Sudan yet.
Well, and what's amazing is the more you dig into the OBS like streaming infrastructure, the more it's just like guys making plugins for like e-girls. Like, oh, I'm sorry, honey, you can't connect your mic to this output. Let me fix that with a little bit of like, Java code or some nonsense.
I will fix this for you, my queen. Please send JPEG of your feet.
Yeah. It's always half Asian girls, but that's beside the point. What we are doing tonight is we're going to take a little look-see. We're going to take a little look-see at there was an announcement of a stream, and these are all guys that are getting some big time. They're getting Jeremy Boring looks, right? You remember who Jeremy Boring is, Bill?
I think I learned about him my sophomore year of high school, and I haven't heard of him since.
Yeah, he kind of fell off the map. So he's the oil and natural gas magnate. He came up in the Texas energy scene, moved out to California to chase his little dreams. Sensitive young man with a song in his heart, wanted to sing in front on the big stage and get on the silver screen, and ended up meeting a guy named Ben Shapiro and starting the Daily Wire, and they forged a media empire on the backs of the tireless labors of Indonesian and Bangladeshi engagement farms, pushing their Daily Wire Facebook messages and their podcasts out into the conservative, the burgeoning conservative online spheres. But he was let go from the Daily Wire, or he parted ways amicably, or not so amicably, because it turns out he mostly just wanted to make movies, starring himself, which is not the most not the most profitable business venture when you're trying to sell your company for an IPO of like 2 billion market cap. If your CEO keeps trying to just do self inserts in all of their media endeavors.
I imagine there's a poorly told story of Brendan Fraser getting molested somewhere in this.
Yeah, I mean, mostly it's just I imagine it involves some sort of like chair with the hole cut out of the seat. Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro with a rope and a big knot tied on the end, saying like, "You're gonna wear the dress, Matt. You're gonna wear the dress."
Beautiful.
So we're gonna take a look at this stream, and it features some guests that are the guests on the stream are all guys that we know. Some of them I've met in person. Some of them I've met online. All of them are tedious. All of them are horrendously midwit people, and it just the worst. So we're gonna jump into it first. Bill, do you know this podcast is sponsored?
Oh, it's sponsored. Who would it be sponsored by?
Well, that's the crazy thing. It is. We have sponsors. I think I have a total of like 150 views over the last 6 episodes that I've done. Obviously, Tommy, when he's on, he gets more. He's quite the draw. But I've gotten reached some sponsor hits. The first sponsor that we're going to Wesson Watches. They've purchased some ads for me. Wesson Watches for every single time. I think it's just that's.
I've heard that it's every single time. It's been told to me by clergy, by anons, by everybody that every single time you need a Watson.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is in the picture, but he looks distinguished. Anyway, let's jump in. Oh, stream's starting soon. Let's figure out where the stream actually starts. Come on. Come on. Come on.
It's a real tease.
There it is.
Last week, at a church conference in Ogden, Utah, a well-known
Wow,
neo-Nazi
this is
publishing house
sponsored by
called
Minoxidil.
Antelope Hill had a vendor table selling.
Can we acknowledge this is driving me nuts? I've only seen probably 20 minutes of this podcast thus far, like in my extensive research and preparation. Why the hell is he wearing a key around his neck?
It's for the chastity cage.
Promoting their books and literature. Some of the materials displayed included the essential speeches of Adolf Hitler, an SS memoir. I was going to make a joke right there, and then I just realized you can't interrupt a monologue to make a joke about the collected works of Adolf Hitler. Light, airy summer reading. An SS memoir called Burning Souls, a handout recommending
Burning Souls is poetry. It's not a memoir, but whatever.
Sounds like this guy's sitting on his
diaries,
nuts.
which are kind of some of the most well-known neo-Nazi literature in the country, and a novel by an American neo-Nazi that inspired the Oklahoma City bombing, alongside swastika jewelry.
You'll notice they did cop out the Jewish authors. There was one Jewish author on that book. It was a rabbi that wrote "You Gentiles." That was on the table, so there was representation. If you know,
Very anti-Semitic of them.
In a book endorsing a pagan Nazi religion called cosmotheism. They're a great follow on X. It's actually true. They started hitting me on X in anticipation of this show. I didn't know they existed. We wrote the monologue, and you hear a word, and then suddenly the word starts appearing everywhere. It's like, oh, cosmotheism. This is a really interesting concept, and then you're being attacked online by cosmotheism. So thanks, guys.
By the way, I'm pretty right wing, and I've been around the space since like the early 2000s poll. I don't know what cosmotheism is.
Yeah, I've never heard that in my life. Is that like the next step of gay libertarianism?
I imagine it's a weird synthesis of like Julius Evola and Mormonism.
Oh, so you get lots of boy wives.
Theism worships nature and places the Aryan race at the top of the natural order. The organizers named their conference, unironically, the War for Normal. The conference was organized through a publishing outfit called New Christendom Press, and hosted by two Reformed pastors of a church there in Utah. When the Antelope Hill story first broke, one of those pastors, I asked before how to say this guy's name. I hate to mispronounce names. Brian Sauvé? How do you say it? Sauvé.
Look at him pretending to be white and not knowing how to pronounce the little accent mark over the E.
Bro, couldn't tell you what an umlaut is.
Dry glazer.
Brian Sauvé said in response that he, quote, didn't have a problem with Antelope Hill's publications. The other pastor, Eric Kahn, posted a musical montage video celebrating White Boy Summer to his X account that same evening, featuring images of a Sieg Heil, the Hitler Youth, the founder of America's Nazi Party, and an elderly SS officer, confirming that Adolf Hitler was, quote, 100% his hero.
Shout out
Doug
Sam
Wilson,
Holden,
one of the most prominent Christian nationalists in the country, asked, why did Antelope Hill think there was a healthy market for their books at this conference? Why, indeed. One of the more prominent and vocal defenders of the conference and of Antelope Hill is Joel Webbin, another pastor and founder of a media company called New Christian Right. This week, Webbin posted a photo of himself with Tucker Carlson and his friend J.D. Hall, with whom Webbin traveled to Tucker's studio for Hall's 100-minute episode, discussing with Tucker, quote, the corrupting lie of Christian Zionism. In the interview with Tucker, Hall called Israel, quote, a desert war cult. It's catchy. Said Muslims are, quote, quite fond of Jesus, and blamed Christian-Muslim tension on, quote, Jewish talking points on the news. Yesterday, Webbin's own organization, New Christian Right, posted about Israel, quote, they killed the prophets, they killed the Lord Jesus. Paul calls them the enemies of all mankind. Now they're trying to sabotage a peace deal in the Middle East. Why do we partner with them?
Look, he's not refuting, and this is something that once you realize this about all of the Daily Wire guys, the glass kind of breaks. He's not refuting anything. He's just saying the facts in a manner that is that is supposed to like invoke some sort of emotional manipulation. Like J.D. Hall was quoting Paul. Like it's in the epistles.
What's that? One of the Thessalonians,
Yeah,
the
Second
Jews
Thessalonians.
who have killed the prophets and the Lord Jesus. It's straight out of the book there.
Yeah, they are enemies of all peoples. Like it's in the Bible. So what do you want us to do with this? Or are you just like gonna give us this feminine recitation of like, look at what these Christians actually believe?
Webben himself posted in reply to his own tweet, what fellowship does light have with darkness? The same week that, say his name again?
Brian Suvet.
Suvet.
Yeah.
We really should have spelled it that way in the prompter.
So this is a case, this is making me a little nervous about peptides. If I'm being honest, like what's happening to this guy's mind? He said the name correctly like 2 minutes ago, and is this peptides? Is that what's happening? Look at his face. His gaunt face.
It's Chinese peptides. You gotta watch out.
Someone's got to tell our friends to lay off the Rita.
The same week that Brian Suvet's publishing house hosted a conference where Antelope Hill felt welcome enough to sell Hitler's speeches, Webben was sitting in Tucker's studio with J.D. Hall, who was making a case that Christians should reconsider their relationship with the Jews and cozy up to Islam instead. These aren't unrelated events, and this didn't come out of nowhere. It's the visible surface of a years-long infiltration of neo-Nazi and white supremacist ideology into Christian nationalist spaces, driven by specific teachers, amplified by a tight-knit internet community, and enabled by an institutional cowardice that names woke leftism but refuses to name the wolves in its own flank. But
ooh, scary! It's so scary. These guys are breaking away from conservative orthodoxy, the Straussian orthodoxy that we've been preaching since the fall of the Reich. That the whole premise of modern conservatism was to like hold true to these pay lip service to these Americana rah values of like unlimited capitalism, red line goes up, and welcoming the immigrant. Completely entirely disjointed from any semblance of like normative American thought prior to 1953, and they're demurring from Straussian conservatism.
Hey, remember kids, Buckley is love, Buckley is life.
Buckley can go get the knife.
not everyone is afraid to name the wolves. I have three people here with me who've been doing just that. John Harris is the host of...
Now, I'm not going to make fun of John Harris's appearance, but can we talk about the elephant in the room? How he's constantly doing this face.
It's like if you ever watched Tangled with your daughter, the smolder. This is the sensitive young man version, but the young is a little out of date, little past.
Yeah, it does work. I wonder, it's the smolder. Like, come on over here, little lady.
Come here.
Let me tell you about them evil Nazis. I heard, people keep asking, like, what happened to John Harris, man? What happened to John Harris? And I was there. I watched it. I saw it was Right Response Conference in 2024. John Harris reached into a shoebox that was laying on the floor and thought it was filled with his unsold books that he had laid out on his table from TruthScript that no one was buying. And he reached into the box and pulled out
the medallion. Is for the less versed among us, this makes you gay and retarded. You must be very careful. It also has some other side effects, but for the youth in the audience, we won't mention those.
Let's just say, hide your mom, hide your mom, hide the dog.
Hide your mom.
Conversations that matter. He's been tracking this pipeline for years. Will Spencer, a former Manosphere...
Now, I am going to make fun of Will Spencer's appearance. One of my most famous tweets of of the Will Spencer arc, when he was exposed as being like in a group chat with Woe and Corey Mahler of Stone Choir fame, doing 7-hour podcast interviews, sharing Hitler memes and Holocaust denial. His head.
I just can't believe they got Dr. Eggman for a podcast. That IP's got to be expensive.
Look, this is not edited. I took an actual ostrich egg because the poll was like, which egg most closely resembles Will Spencer's head. And the curve along the top of his head is so perfect to this egg. It's incredible. And who could forget Will Spencer's famous copy pasta of all of his adventures while we were being incels in our mom's basement, doing things like, I don't know, getting married, having kids, starting businesses, being successful. He was out touring, hinting at a life of sex tourism in Southeast Asia and the Polynesians, going to ayahuasca sweat lodges, finding his inner self, and of course, learning the blade in Wudang. And as we say, Wudang clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Hey, I just know that he had an extra special time in Thailand.
This guy.
Influencer who went to the very edge of the online neo-Nazi world, walked away, and now writes about his radicalization and about how this radicalization captures particularly young men. And for the first time publicly, Ethan Hansen, who has been anonymously exposing these people on X for years under the excellent account Hitler Hated Christ, and who has decided to make himself known.
Are you hiding?
I think this guy teaches high school literature.
You think?
Yeah, but like only the worst books. Like you were gonna read How to Kill a Mockingbird just 4 times that semester.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say too much, but he does not. He just looks like it. He's the guy you call when you need there's someone to come and turn off and turn on your laptop again at a university. But why? Like, look at the arms, dude. Like, he had to have gotten paid a top dollar to get this suit tailored in advance of this interview, because look at
the shoulder down to the delt right there. That's
there's no arms. There's nothing. Dude is a.
Just remember your overhead presses, children, or you could look like this.
Bro, why do they all look like that?
Oh, just truly beautiful people.
I mean, it's the same energy as this guy.
Hey, I'm not gonna let my daughter near him.
Oh man, and I just shifted something around. Hold on, I don't know what I did. Oh no. Okay, I think we're safe. Something's probably drastically wrong on the stream, but whatever.
And for some reason,
looking at that guy, looking at Ethan, what do you think he sounds like? Do you like if you had to take a guess?
Let me pull this together.
Well, personally, I believe that these racist, misogynist bigots
What's
are
the over
just
under on him having a
worst.
speech impediment?
I feel like he needs the lispy gay voice at least a little bit.
Let's stay tuned and find out.
lack of good sense or decency, chose the Jeremy Boring Show as the venue. You do meticulous research, debunking memes, disinformation, historical revisionism, online neo-Nazis used to deceive and recruit, and we're very glad that you're here, not in an anonymous way, but as yourself. Thanks for being with us. We'll get right into it. I mean, the very first thing is if a guy decides he's going to show his face for the first time after doing the kind of work that you've been doing on the internet, I want to know why, like what on earth got into you, what came over you, and why now?
Yeah, well, I mean, now is when I got invited on the Jeremy Boring Show.
Man, we should have invited you on.
So I'd never got an invite for running an anonymous Hitler Twitter account to fly out to Nashville and film something. So thanks for having me, by the way.
Thank you for being here.
Oh man.
I just love the TJ Maxx boots and with the zipper, always a zipper.
Yeah.
And the nice tight jeans.
Well, and they're Tecovas too, which is making me reconsider significant amounts of life decisions here because I wear the Deans in the winter.
Be an area chud.
Like the only thing I would make this better is if he was wearing a bolo tie. But there, like two observations out of the gate, right? How short is Jeremy Boring?
he's got that 5'3" to 5'6" manlet energy.
Yeah, like you can't tell from this still. This dog right here, that's like a Maltese, like a Chihuahua. And I know what you're saying. Oh, that's a Schnauzer. I know it's a Schnauzer. This is part of the joke. If you tuned in for actual commentary, you're going to be sorely disappointed. This is a shit talk session. I don't care. But look at look at the size of the dog compared to the size of the man leg next to the dog. That is not an okay ratio. You got your green line test. Well, I'm proposing the dog to leg ratio test.
Dog to leg ratio. Beautiful. And what's with the gay British couch?
Oh, the whole set I'm hopeful that this is his house because it makes it that much more fantastic. If this is a set,
gay little sword, the like presidential seal,
he's got like some
the
sort of like dishes.
wife selected lamp.
Wife, sir.
Well, yeah, sorry.
Sir. This is tastefully
Nondescript
voiced by a
love
gay man that
interest.
is way into the closet. Anywho, one other body like thing that is going to drive me crazy with guys like this. He is going to jerk his chin towards Jeremy anytime he inflects on a point. And I'm not a body language expert. I'm just a guy. But anytime people do that to me, it instantly says like, oh, you're a social climber. You're like begging for credibility. And I don't know. I'm just here sipping the silly juice.
What's with the knees pulled up too? Like I'm trying to hit that pose right now. It's unnatural. Do they have like zero hip mobility? They've clearly not been hitting the squats.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's probably true that like there is a woman in their lives that goes to some sort of like Latin Pilates. I don't know what they call them, like Pilates, in Mexico or whatever. Doing Bellamy salutes and stretches and stuff. And I would recommend a similar workout routine.
Sign up for the couples Pilates class. It's only $150 to have a fat woman tell you how to work out and get in shape.
And hey, we are only 5 minutes and 30 seconds into this stream, but it is time, unfortunately, for us, because we've been going for, how long have we been going? I don't even know. Where's my timer? Oh, we've been going for 22 minutes. It's time for another sponsor. We're going to go ahead and hear from our next sponsor, Wesson Watches. Give the gift of mediocrity. If you want someone with a watch on their wrist that screams, I pay movie reviewers and art houses hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to take a look at my shit movies and then give me awards that I can put on my resume so my college will recognize me as some sort of filmmaker, you might wear a Wasson. And I'm not making that up. That's out of the copy. That's out of the copy, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they gave me to say. So don't blame me. Go to Brian at Wesson and file your complaints. Don't do that. This is parody anyway.
Really, I mean, we've just seen an acceleration in the last year or so, maybe year and a half especially, of a lot of guys that are calling themselves pastors or are prominent figures.
Still not convinced they're not being bankrolled by minoxidil right now. Look at these hairlines. This is magical.
You think we can
Spencer's beyond saving, but with a heavy dose of minoxidil, you too could look like you're trying to cover up for receding hairlines.
Bro, my heart goes out to the Norwood sixes like this. I'm in the same camp. Is there a peptide that makes that shrivels up your ball hair and puts it back on your head where it belongs? Also, the lip, everything.
That's where the zin's supposed to go, pal. He's missing it.
Maybe if you did like an upper decker on the other side, it would like balance out this weird pursed lip thing he has going on. But we should probably actually watch this, Bill.
Yeah. Let's give it
in this sort of new anti-Jewish, purportedly Christian right.
Yeah.
And it's sort of getting to the point now, in my opinion, where it's not something that is going to fizzle out on its own. You need people that have spent a lot of time looking at these ideologies, know how to respond to them, are familiar with all of the different intricacies, the talking points. And I've been posting about this sort of thing for 3 or 4 years now, and quite a few years before that, having personal interactions with these type of guys in person and online. And so when I made my account, my intention was to just be a resource for information on the Third Reich, information regarding Christianity and not
Reich. The Third Reich.
Hey, it's like when you go to the Mexican restaurant with your mom and she tries really hard.
With your wife, and she like throws her chancleta at you because you can't pronounce the correct words for an empanada.
And then for some reason she throws up her right arm. It's really weird.
All the CPAC guys around her just start freaking out, like, hey, you can't do that. I'm gonna beg your pardon, but this is insufferable at 1x speed. We're gonna bump it up, guys. I'm sorry.
Nazism and their incompatibility. And it seemed like when I first made my account, there was a lot of hunger for that. People were hearing a lot of conflicting information around that topic, and my account took off. So I never expected it to get to the point that I would be people interested in my personal opinion about anything beyond just sharing historical references and things like that. But I think as some of this has become a little bit more mainstream, it's become necessary to speak out against it more vocally, and now I guess put my face on it too. So.
Well, I appreciate you doing it. You knew when you chose Hitler Hates Christ, like you were picking a fight. And I think that one of the biggest problems that we have in the country really right now is the anonymity of the internet. It provides real opportunities. So I think of what you've been doing as sort of like writing under Publius and writing the Federalist Papers. Like you've been doing really important work. And sometimes important work needs to be done with anonymity, in particular in the beginning. But ultimately, if we don't put our face to our work.
Yeah, going on a debate against evangelical dark web is akin to being Publius and writing the Federalist Papers.
I'm honestly surprised he wasn't there at Normandy Beach. He's just so brave.
And like for the uninitiated, Ethan is the king of just like screen grabbing Wikipedia articles and posting them and be like, see, you're wrong, guys. The Wikipedia article says you're wrong. And it's it's like you're anyway, I'm gonna get mean.
We just make it possible for all this bot infiltration that's happening, all the sort of manufactured social proof that's happening. So I always appreciate anytime somebody kind of steps out from behind their anonymous handle and decides to put their face on what they say, lets everybody know that they're a real person. I think it couldn't be more important. So thanks for choosing this as the platform to do it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
John, we're going to use a lot of language today, and I think it's probably good, especially for an audience that probably isn't familiar with all the terms. There are concepts that are kind of common to those of us who are...
The ephemeral sheen. I wonder when he how often do you think he shaves the head? Is he an every morning guy?
Bro, he's gained so much weight since he got married.
Clear sign too with the dress shoes with the white bottom. Cosmopolitan.
You think he's wearing a Wasson?
Oh yeah.
Engaging with these ideas. But normally America, well, it's starting to encounter some of these things. Really, I don't think it's taken any sort of deep dive. Even Christian nationalism. Tell us what it is. Still man it for us. What is the case for Christian nationalism?
Well, it's a book written by Stephen Wolfe, who's a friend of mine. It's also, I think, a broad concept.
He's a friend of mine. He's a friend. I'm friends with everybody except for the evil racist alpaca.
That has been used as a catch-all for Christians who want to be involved in politics and they conceive of the nation or the empire, whatever you want to conceive America as identifying as Christian. And so they want Christian laws, Christian identity, Christian mores, Christian principles in the government. And when this started becoming a topic because of media focusing on it and trying to get everyone to be scared about it, the people who used it positively started talking about things like blasphemy laws from the past or Sabbath laws, or we're going to ban pornography. These were a lot of the discussions you saw online. The discussion has moved more into focus on Israel and the Jewish people more broadly. There's, of course, also still people talking about our identity as Americans. What does American heritage mean? So there's a lot of discussions going on, but I think there has been a shift in the conversation, at least on the internet. And there's people who are essentially neo-Nazi in their ideology, like the Stonechoir podcast, who will use that term of themselves. And there's also guys who are more paleo-conservative, like Stephen Wolfe, who like to use the term. So because it's so broadly used, it's hard to define. You need to ask someone what they mean by it if they claim it for themselves, I think.
I think this is a little bit disingenuous. The Christian nationalist, like Stephen Wolfe, became popular because he was one of the first guys to hop onto a large platform and say, hey, people have been writing about politics for longer than, since 1960, right? And there's this disconnection between, like, we feel it in our bones that we are disconnected from the traditional ways of living of our society. And so we are atomized people just out in the ether with nothing but platitudinous nonsense to keep us going. And we've seen at election after election, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, every single election for the last 50 years has yielded nothing for us. It is like a few times we'll get a tax break, or maybe there'll be good gun control laws, but there's three things that will continue on apace forever. It is the denigration of the heritage Christian traditions. It is the replacement of and disinheritance of the heritage white Americans whose ancestors built the country, and a constant flow towards a pluralistic, secular, lowest common denominator culture. And John is specifically leaving out the spiritual and the traditional component. He's focusing only on the political component. Well, we just want a Christian government. It's like, yeah, what does that mean? And like, how do we get there? And can we get there if we continue to like pay obeisance to these people that like specifically hate our religion and pray the Birkat Hamanim every single Wednesday when they go to shul? Like, this is the part that my biggest problem with John. I think John's a good guy. I think he's a striver. I think he follows economic and social incentives, but I think he's fundamentally a good guy, and he never does the secondary, tertiary, quaternary entailments of what it is that we're talking about. He's like, oh no, we need to stop the conversation here, guys. It's like, no, we're addressing the root problems now, and it's time to get in line or shut up.
As a certain
big part in your
podcast group said, the genealogy of ideas actually does seem to have some merit in how things happen, and when you kind of disassociate Christian nationalism versus like multicultural pluralist America, and just say this is this moment in time, this is this moment in time, without any history behind it. It's like, well, I could say that Christian nationalists is bad because obviously separation of church and state, and obviously you guys are looking at historical figures who we said are bad. So that means you guys are all just without any clause for being right, wrong.
100%.
In your attorney, tell us a little bit about what they do and that aspect of Christian nationalism, and maybe how it's distinct from, say, the paleoconservative argument.
Yeah, I come at this sort of from an interesting direction. I spent 20 years in the New Age, a little bit like Lucas Gage, who you spoke with last week. And so in that world, Holocaust denialism isn't framed in sort of racial ethnic terms. It's more as if like we've been lied to about history, and to sort of create this parasitic kind of grid over the world, if you could think of things that way. And so
I think he doesn't button his shirt because his fat is just making it very difficult to maintain the buttons on his shirt. Like, he wants the shirt to accentuate his biceps here, even though they're like kind of rotund unto themselves, like some sort of stuffed sausage, like a German blood sausage that Corey Mahler might cook up for breakfast one day. But the buttons on his shirt, if he deigned to button them up, they would become quite uncomfortable and limit his mobility when someone like a ninja attacks out of the corner of the room. He wouldn't be able to unsheath his blade and show him the way of Wu-Dang.
Hey, I remember trying to dress nice freshman year of high school and look cool for all the girls, so you can't fault them too much.
His wife dressed him now, and the theme is Backstreet Boys.
So that was the world that I was discipled in. And so then I find my way into Reformed Christianity. I find the Stone Choir podcast, and they're approaching that issue, and they're approaching the issues of Jewish influence. And I've been discipled by the internet. I'm arrogant, I'm vain, I'm proud. And I think because I grew up in a Jewish family, I can handle these topics. And I was wrong. I was very wrong. So a pastor intervened. I posted the podcast. It was a 6-hour podcast, longest podcast.
You interviewing them?
Me interviewing them, yeah. So I posted the podcast, and that day, that morning, actually, the night before, a pastor named Joel Ellis, he saw that. He and I were friends. I had been attending his church for a while. I wasn't a member yet, but he stayed up all night, late into the night, praying over what to do, and woke up early praying what to do, and decided to intervene in my life. And so he emailed me that morning, and he sent screenshots of a telegram that one of the co-hosts of Stone Choir, Corey Mahler, had. And the screenshots that he sent me showed me who it was I had really been talking to. The one that really stands out in my mind said, "We will win down here, and then we will make the enemies of God suffer." And as soon as I saw that, I realized I'm in way over my head. And
That's the Whoa has posted some horrendous shit over the course of like various anonymized forums. That's the one that got you? We are going to win down here and make the enemies of God suffer. Why is that bad? Like, assuming the civil magistrate frame that we adopt as Christian nationalists, isn't the left hand of Christ supposed to wield the sword and be a terror to evil?
I met this guy named Joshua, and he really scared me, because in the book that was accredited to his name, there's this guy named Gideon, and they said they were going to kill the evildoers they were going to do it for God and for Gideon. You know, that really scared me, because what if they win down here and punish the evildoers?
what if David actually kills Goliath, okay, and then goes on like a rampage against all of the Philistines, and he's just cutting off their foreskins. He's cutting foreskins off. He's cutting all of the foreskins. He's collecting them. He's putting them in a satchel. He's got a bag tied around his belt. He has a foreskin stuffed bag. It's a leather bag. It's on his belt. It's full of foreskins. Who knows where David got them all, okay? And we're just gonna let this guy be king forever? Like he's gonna be the man after God's own heart? Well, this is ridiculous. I grew up in a Jewish family, by the way.
I had not done my research and I had failed. So I posted a repentance tweet for hosting the podcast, pulled it immediately, said, this is entirely on me. It's my own failure of research. I failed to do my due diligence. And I expected that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. There was an outpouring of rage at me, completely unexpected. I had no idea. Just a short repentance tweet. I just pulled it. Didn't say anything about them really. I said repent for associating with views that I found reprehensible, something like that. Like I didn't want to be associated with that. I didn't say they should be deplatformed or anything like that. But the tweet did 250,000 views, and the vitriol and the hatred that I received was really shocking to me. And I felt that after that point, that it was as if I had been in a very dark cave and something very large had brushed up against me in the dark.
Part of the hate and the vitriol that he's referring to is being confronted with his own screenshots where he admits 6 million sounds a little too high. And, admits that, like, in light of Weimar conditions, Weimar solutions were probably necessary. So, this is a little bit of revisionism from the anti-revisionist crowd.
And I realized that something was much bigger than I realized. And so it was after that I found the book Black Sun by Nicholas Goodrick Clark, which I recommend. You can get the Kindle edition free, first 50 pages. And I read that and I realized what it was I had contacted. And that sent me on the journey that's led me here today.
Wait, what book did he say?
The Black Sun.
Did he say Black Hole Sun?
Won't you come?
In my youth. Anyway.
Is the Christian nationalism movement primarily online?
I would say so. There's certainly politicians who have used the label. A good friend of mine, Dusty Devers, has used that label in Oklahoma on the state level. And of course, there's people like, I think, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene who have used the term. But it's more popular online than it seems to be in actual campaigns for political office.
When politicians have invoked it, do you think that they're invoking it sort of for the sound or for the actual substance? Christian nationalism, I mean, it has one can imagine that it's really just a way of saying that I'm one of the cool kids, right? I'm one of the cool kids and I'm Christian. But then it also has substantive meaning. Do you think that they're invoking that?
It's hard to say with all of them. I know Dusty the best, and I think he has very pure motives, and he looks at it as, I just want the country to return to a state of normalcy where things were more Christian. It seems like they're less Christian now. And
he lost.
He lost embarrassingly, unfortunately.
Yeah, it turns out you need more than good intentions. You also need like a good ground game, and to have a guy like Jeremy insinuate that like, oh, they just want to be the cool kids. Like, bro, you had Ben Shapiro debating retarded college kids for decades. What are you talking about?
Another liberal-owned compilation is going to turn the voting tide of this country.
No, guys, it's Ben Shapiro Thug Life comps. We got it. We're gonna put the cigarette in his mouth and the PNG chain and the sunglasses and stuff. Thug Life.
And he's hoping that voters see it that way too. So return to moral standards that were slackening, especially under Biden. So I do think there's a way this has been used that people with good motives have tried to use it. There's obviously people, I mentioned the Stonechoir podcast before, who see it as something that's adjacent to or in league with other ideas like National Socialism. So again, the problem is it is somewhat of a catch-all term, and it's developing. And this is one of the issues with the internet is these terms come into being and they take a life of their own, and they go places that maybe even the people who created them never intended them to go.
Is John Harris lamenting that the term Christian nationalism was not appropriately gatekept and like had a mimetic lifespan that was useful and like broadly applicable outside of his direct control on his little boomer podcast where he talks about the SBC and missionary work to Africa?
Christian nationalism is when you send another 16-year-old girl to Africa to evangelize the tribals who are going to rip her limb from limb and eat her.
And he keeps going back. You can just put this up as his avatar and it works.
Is you consider yourself today a Christian nationalist?
I've never used the label of myself.
Okay.
So people have attributed that to me. I'm just a Christian. I'm an American. I'm a conservative. I've called myself a paleocon before. So I read the Chronicles magazine and that kind of stuff. Paul Gottfried. I mean, those are the guys that I like to read.
John
But
Harris
I saw some hope in the Christian nationalist thing, especially initially.
Classic.
There were guys who were talking about restoring Christian values and Christian understanding and Christian identity to their local municipalities on the state level, on the federal, national level. And that was something to be hopeful for. Now, I don't know that it's kind of trailed off. I don't know if it has the electoral power that people who were positive about it were hoping it would have. But I don't think it's going away necessarily. There's new terms obviously being used. New Christian right is a term that got coined for people that didn't necessarily want the label Christian nationalist. They were part of the new Christian right. Now, though, Joel Webbin's kind of taken that for his own brand. So that term has been sort of used now for something very specific. So it's very hard on the internet to determine what these words necessarily mean in the moment. Because once I define it tomorrow, it might take on a new life.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny how singular personalities online can lay claim to broadly applicable terms, like the way Nick Fuentes did with America First, right? You've got a term that has always had meaning, and it kind of has a storied history in our country, but certainly in 2015, 2016 was not being invoked by, say, Donald Trump to possess everyone off, but also to do this.
Did you see that jump cut?
Little jump cut. He didn't want to show off that
15, 2016 was not being invoked by, say, Donald Trump to possess everyone off.
What?
It was the demonic possession. Nick Fuentes sent Nick Roper to sit on him, and he got scared.
Dude, and to have a guy like Boring lament that like terms are being bogarted by specific institutions, it's like, dude, your entire organization was set up to legitimize the idea that a Maimonides following Orthodox Jew has the final say in what constitutes American conservatism. Like your whole shtick was this redefining of the term conservatism. You're not following like Charles Lindbergh conservatism. It's exclusive. It doesn't include you. It doesn't include Ben. It doesn't include a lot of people. And here you are, you have Michael Knowles, and it's like, well, okay, so like, where's the Father Coughlin love from the Catholic? None of these guys. Conservatism is a big tent. It includes all sorts of people like Dave Rubin buying kids from surrogate mothers for him and his homosexual sodomite husband. We're going to buy the kids. We're going to be big tent conservatives. And as long as Redline goes up and immigrants continue to pour in and nobody ever criticizes anybody on identitarian lines, everything is going to just work out fine.
Conservatism is GDP go up and boomer tax cuts.
And don't notice that the left are now moving from whatever their pet project is to like actually putting you against the wall.
But also to do the same thing, to take this term that's being used for purposes that I didn't think were appropriate and to claim a kind of ownership over it so that you can imbue it with a particular meaning. I felt like that'd be kind of taking a page out of their playbook. But
well, if I could just say something that's to clarify for everyone, maybe you would want the discussion to go this direction. I don't know, but I think
we have no plan.
We have no plan. That's very encouraging. So you guys aren't dispensationalists then. You don't have a chart. There's no plan. It's all kind of out there.
Yeah, I essentially have no eschatology.
Okay, all right. So I think that there's a lot of post-liberal ideas that are gaining momentum. And post-liberal ideas, that's a wide box. When you open that box up, there could be bad things, there could be good things. So I don't like liberalism. I see myself as more pre-modern, pre-liberal. So I guess you could say post-liberal. I want to challenge some of the liberal assumptions. But there's also people who want to challenge what they see as liberal assumptions, and they want to go in some of the directions that Ethan and Will have been talking about. And so Christian nationalism has borne the weight of just being Christians, I think, who want to be post-liberal. Mm-hmm. They want to conceive of nations as real organic entities and not just ideas. They want to look at identity as something that's more fulfilling and holistic than just an idea that you have in your head. So challenging the proposition nation idea has been a big part of this. And I think...
Do you believe that America is not a proposition nation?
I challenge it, yeah.
Challenge it.
Okay, well, I guess we're going here. So I think that nations, and this is a biblical view from my estimation, are formed organically as families move and they populate and they form folkways over time. So you see that in Genesis 11, Genesis 10, starting in Genesis 10.
Folkways?
I wonder what book this guy got this from. I remember picking up this book a couple of years ago called like The Case for Christian Nationalism or something. Can't remember the author, but the intro to that book said that same idea that nations form naturally.
Oh, he said folkways. Okay, not folkways. Sorry, I'm spurging. Yeah. I mean, the biblical definition of nation has always had a connotation of blood and soil and religion, right? Like that.
I mean, that is the word. The word for nation comes from the same Greek word is a patrilineal line. Like a nation is a patrilineal line.
Yeah, people always want to point to culture, and it's like, oh no, it's just about culture, man. It's about culture. And it's like, okay, well, Cicero is using the word culture to describe something that already existed, right? And Cicero chose the word culture not as like some sort of new definition of people that are able to form bonded societies, but because culture was had agrarian roots, right? Like it is, if you are to enculturate something is to plant seeds in fertile soil, right? And so like the idea of culture existing outside of, I would argue, like genetics, is you know is preposterous. And that's my polemic idea is like, oh, only women are capable of assimilating, and I point to Ruth. It's like you're not just submitting culturally or religiously or traditionally or some sort of like ideological lines. You're also submitting biologically, because you know that your offspring are going to be increasingly incorporated into the gene pool of the dominant ethnos.
Then. And then we see in the nation of Israel, there's an example given of specific laws that benefit them, and there's an integration process into a covenant. And there are people that can be part of it, but they have to come in at a certain scale. It's not like the mass immigration we've had, and they have to identify with the people. Like the best example is probably Ruth. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. So that's the integration. It's not strictly reducible to ideas. There's ideas that are part of this, but it's a real, tangible, very organic reality. It's like a family, and so. Right. That's how I look at nations, and I think America's an empire with multiple nations.
In what way is the history of America, though, not propositional?
Well, that's kind of an interesting way to word the question. I would probably push back and say, like, in what way is it propositional? Because I think,
well, for the history of this country, the concept of America as being creedal or propositional has always been part of our founding narrative.
Right.
It hasn't. And if John had stones, he would push back on this thusly. The idea of a creedal nation.
There's no world where you can make the argument that America as a nation is not fundamentally white Anglo-Saxon Protestants arriving with the intention of making a new nation of their progeny and literally going to like war to remove the native tribals because they shouldn't be here in their new nation. Like they don't just wrap everybody in. It's not an option to wrap everybody in. You just wipe them out and fill it with your own people.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Seeds of Albion thing, right? Like where for up until the Civil War, the vast majority of Americans were Anglo-Saxon or Ulster Scot, and that was it. You know, there was some Swedes in Delaware, and some French Catholics in the Maryland colonies, I guess. But for the most part, it was predominantly Anglo-Saxon. The idea of a creedal nation happened as a revisionist retelling of the entire American founding mythos. And it happened after the turn of the century, when we had immigrants from the Eastern European Pale settlements come into the United States, immediately start committing financial crimes and ingratiating their children into the academic institutions, marketing, psychology, and working. You know, you had this interplay between guys like Edmund Bernays, who was working on PR and how to mimetically graft new ideas into large populations. You had the interplay between academics out of Columbia University who are actively working and retelling the American tale, and that's how you end up with the stupid freaking Colossus poem from that gnarly lady about give us your poor. It's literally like, well, we're going to put it on the Statue of Liberty as a symbol of Americana. Send us like your syphilitic AIDS patients, and we'll take care of you. No, that was never part of the American ethos. That was something that was added. The Nation of Immigrants and the Melting Pot came from a Jewish playwright in New York. All of it was revisionist history retold by recent Eastern European immigrants and their children that were in positions of relative influence in academia and culture centers. None of this is historical. It is entirely ahistorical.
So we're not a country without a proposition. We're not a country without a creed. There are many, many countries, probably the vast majority of countries that have ever existed, have not been formed around.
The creed is be like us, right? Like you take an Anglo-Saxon out of the 1650s and you say, be like that guy. That is the creed. all laws
Yeah.
are expressions of an existing people and an existing ethos, right?
Yeah, it's you need to be a white Anglo-Saxon who holds to a very specific subset of like religious ideals and civil ideals. And if you don't fit within that, you don't fit. We will throw you out.
Yeah, that's the whole creed. The whole creed is be like a 17th century Anglo-Saxon living in America. Like if you can't hack it, you're gonna fucking die. If you can't hack it, your family's gonna die. You got to take care of yourself. You got to be a virtuous person. If you commit crimes, we're gonna kill you. We're gonna string you up after a judge says it's okay. Like we're probably gonna need you to posse up and go fight some people that are trying to steal our corn out of the silos or steal a horse. Like the whole thing is just be Anglo. And that everything else is just flower on top of that. Like, oh, we have the Declaration of Independence. It's this flowery retelling of the Magna Carta. No, it's be a settler, be a pilgrim, be a Puritan, be a Southern Cavalier. Like that is our creed. And if you can't be those things, then you don't creedally match up. And I'm sorry, there's significant overlap between who can live up to the creed and also who are racially aligned with the creed.
A proposition or a creed. Some have. I think Israel probably more than any other than America. I mean, in this case, both modern and historic Israel were founded around an idea. Not exclusively an idea, but certainly were founded around an idea in a way that, say, Britain was not founded around an idea. Britain was founded really around a geography, and then there were wars of who would control that geography. America, unique, exceptional. And the fact of its being exceptional, the fact of it being creedal, the fact of it being an experiment. The American experiment is not a term of modernity or a term of the 20th century. That's part of how America has seen itself, part of America's identity from the very beginning. That is part of
the experiment, and the American experiment, as referenced by like founding fathers, is the experiment of a republic. The republic is long dead. The republic died, probably Lincolnish era, right? Like, the experiment was, can all these crazy hillbillies, this ethnogenesis of people that were like insane enough to leave Europe and go conquer this entire new continent, can they survive and self-govern? That was the experiment. The experiment was not like, hey, how many Somalis can we fit into Dearborn, Michigan, before people start to like really get upset at the number of like rapes and crimes.
I love just the revision of English history too. Like, oh well, it's so different. It's like no, Alfred the Great just said, hey, all of these countries north of me now no longer have leaders. I am going to establish leaders in them, and they are now my country. I'm going to start from London, and I'm going to just say, hey, I am the seat of all power because I repelled the Danes. It's foundationally the same thing. There is a hostile group dwelling in these lands. I'm going to expel them. Because I expel them, I am now claiming the power over this realm, and I am co-opting it into my empire. And now I own everything, and England is a thing. It's in no way any different than the founding of America.
Yeah, I mean, and like even the documents they point to, right? Like the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was like, we're granting nobility rights because they can muster armies that rival the power of the king, right? Like it's an extortion letter saying like, no, we're going to govern our lands. We'll still, pay obeisance and fealty to the crown and muster, armies to the crown when needed for national defense, and we'll levy taxes and stuff. But we're going to have some relative autonomy because if not, we actually have the strength to kill you. And it comes.
Yeah.
It's
the same argument of Alfred. I don't remember the Dane's name. The guy he spares and says, "Hey, you can be king of I think Mercia." And he's like, "Hey, you're going to rule over this. I'm functionally adopting you as my son, but you're going to be baptized and become a Christian, or I'm going to kill you. If you become baptized and become a Christian and live as an Anglo-Saxon Christian, I will let you live long in the land. If you become exactly like me, if not, I'm going to kill you. You will not live here." And it's weird. The guy made the decision that he was going to become a Christian and live long in the land.
Incredible how that works out, how creed is really just ethnic emulation. But hey, we have to break for a sponsor. We've been going for 54 minutes now. So let's go to our next sponsor. It's Wesson Watch again. Wesson Watch is the watch you would wear when you need to really make an entrance in a church. That's the copy. Apparently, it is a reference to Israel blowing up a Presbyterian church and hospital in Gaza or in the West Bank during one of their raids a couple years ago.
Hey, knock down those steeples. I'm coming in.
Knock down the steeples like it's Nakba.
Part of what's unique about this country. It's also why, on a continent the size of Europe, we have been able, for the majority of the history of the country, to be a state instead of, well, if you travel as far as any one of you traveled to be here today in Europe, you're traveling over entire historic languages, historic currencies, historic militaries that warred against one another for centuries. We were able to be a cohesive nation for the last 250 years, in part because we were bound by something more than, well, geography wasn't enough to describe it. Ancestry wasn't enough to describe it because America's always had large amounts of migration. I think that if we want to talk about,
I don't remember us being a cohesive nation. There was this little spat in the 1860s where there wasn't a cohesive nation because we didn't agree on ideals and governance and all these things he's referencing. But I guess we glaze that over.
Yeah, as someone who's spent a lot of time in places like Opal, Virginia, and it seems like there might have been some strife, between disparate disparate nationalities that had different thoughts about how the nation should be governed, and even up until the Eisenhower administration, they were still sending bayoneted soldiers into the South to point their guns at people who had different thoughts about what the creed of a nation actually means and what self-government looks like.
The best part of that too is the fact that like Boring would acknowledge that was the right thing to do in order to provide a cohesive nation. When he's arguing the exact thing we're saying is that you have to by force make somebody become part of your nation. Like that is the whole argument of the Civil War, the war of Northern aggression. It's like we are going to come down and stomp you until you agree to be part of our nation and fit what we want you to do.
Yeah, and it seems pretty obvious. If you can have a creedal nation, then how do you enforce the creed? Like, how many citizens have we stripped of citizenship because they turned out to be like, commie, leftist, Antifa types? None, right? We're not deporting these people to Soviet Russia or to Cuba. Like, Hassan can still walk around New York going to Mamdani fundraisers, right? He doesn't apply. He actively rejects the creed of the nation. Therefore, if there's no punishment for rejecting the creed of the nation, there is no creed of the nation.
Migration since the 1960s, you have some real problems there that I think have been incredibly deleterious to the health of the nation. If you put too much blue dye into a cup of red water, the water is going to turn purple and then blue. If you put a drop every now and then, the water stays red. Basically, the red overwhelms the blue. That's what it means to integrate. That's what it means to have a melting pot society. So if you're saying we overwhelm the safeguards that would make it possible for us to bring in people and have them become American, of course, those are all. I don't think you'd find any pushback from any major conservative on the idea that that's been deleterious to the country. But if you say that
Cato Institute,
America isn't creedal or isn't propositional, then I think that you're essentially saying that America is completely other than it has ever identified itself, because it has always identified itself along these lines as being a place where that drew a particular set of people from around the world who shared a particular desire to take part in this experiment, a particular desire to make their own way, to be free from the kind of government overreach that existed in almost every other place on Earth. There's a reason that America has done so well at producing modernity. Part of it is that we have a system of largely free enterprise, largely not a caste system, not a system in which you're trapped in your tax bracket. You can have upward mobility. You can make something of yourself here in a way just strictly because of the economic system that you probably couldn't have in other places. But that's not the only reason. We also drew to this country because of the proposition, because of the creed, because of the experiment. We drew from around the world the kind of people who wanted to take those kinds of risks, who wanted to try to stand on their own, who wanted to see what they were capable of becoming. Whereas I don't think that all, contra some of the bad ideas that we had at the very beginning of the 21st century, it turns out man doesn't by and large long for freedom. That's not a complete answer for what motivates people around the world, but it is what motivated the majority of people who crossed oceans to be here over the last 250.
No, it's not. They were looking for a come up. They were looking to escape. There's no, I would argue, there's no notion of like the American dream. We need to get to America. We're going to the Ellis Island to register as American citizens because we want the opportunity to make something of ourselves. It's no. Our nation was so successful, was so good at what it did because of the people who comprised the nation, that everyone in the world was like, hey, stepping foot on that soil, like having a toe on that magic dirt when my wife gives birth, immediate come up, immediate economic come up for my entire line, like all of history. That's the reason they came.
I really wonder if guys like this, we give so much crap to the boomers for how they act, and I think they legitimately believe this just because they've been indoctrinated. But a guy like this, it's like, do you truly believe that everybody who's come to America, do you believe the guy who's reaching out to you on LinkedIn right now saying, Mr. Jeremy, I will work for you for $20 an hour instead of 30. Let me code your software for you. Do you think that guy is doing it because America is so cool, or is he doing it because you're going to pay him $20 an hour? Where back home in Bangladesh, he's going to make the equivalent of 13 cents, and he's going to poop in the street. Which do you really think it is?
I mean, he's still going to poop in the street, but that's just because he likes it.
Well, he might go to the beach here.
The similarities between the Indian H-1B tech immigrant and the domesticated cat are startling.
50 years. That's not, I mean, there is a reason that the migration all moved one direction, and people were being drawn to this family. And I would say that is the idea. That is the ethos of the country, not just the sort of ethnic background of the country, which was always very diverse.
If I can interject real fast, you did just mention there in what you just said, that it's a family.
Mm-hmm.
So a family is largely, you have natural portions to your family that are when you have kids and they're born into your family, but other people can be adopted into your family, and your family has principles, right? I don't think that America is purely racial, ethnic, cultural, anything like that, because people aren't any of those things alone, right? And so I think maybe, and John can kind of clarify that a little bit, but it was interesting you used the word family there, because it seemed to be like kind of what you were inferring a second ago, but you seem to think maybe, John, that was outside of.
Well, you also talk about particularity. So, the Declaration of Independence itself, which I think America predates that, because you had settlers coming hundreds of years before that document. But even in that document, the majority of the document is about rights as British subjects being abrogated by the king, essentially. So you get to the Constitution, and it's for ourselves and our posterity. You have these various states who have their own identities, their own religious tests, their own particularities. And I think of George Washington's farewell address, where he tries to say to this diverse country, diverse because there's 4 British pathways here, folkways, that, hey, you all have the same language, the same customs, the same religion, so you're Americans, you need to stick together. He doesn't talk about you all have the same ideas about freedom or equality or market participation, which I grant you, I think everything you said is true as far as the immigration has come here, because there's opportunity. We had a lot of frontier, natural resources, and we did because of a very particular ethos that developed over hundreds of years in Great Britain especially. We had a common law system that I think allowed people to exercise even their free market advantages. And so, yeah, I think these things can be, they're not necessarily in disagreement, but to sort of get back on.
Well, I'm only challenging the idea that we're not a proposition nation. I'm not challenging the idea that a nation is more than a proposition.
Well, it depends what you mean.
Again, Jeremy, if it's a propositional nation, if it's a creedal nation, what is the proposition? What is the creed? And what do you do to people who do not assent to your proposition or do not adhere to your creed? Is there any recourse? Is there any enforcement? I forget. R.N. McIntyre said it, and it's a quote of some stupid continental philosopher. Whoops. But it's the ruler is the one who gets to institute the exception to the rule, right? And so we have accepted infinity exceptions to the creed. It's like pastors. If you're in a Reformed church and you have a pastor that's going up for examination, one of the things that they have to adhere to is they have to name the ways in which they object or take exception to the creed. So within the Presbyterian framework, it's the Westminster Standard. So it's you have to go through and provide a defense of any sort of exception that you take to the Westminster, the creed or the 3 forms. And if you do not, if you take too many exceptions, or if your exceptions are ill-founded or against the doctrines of the tradition, then you don't get to be a pastor. You don't get approved. There's no mechanism for that sorting, for that kind of censorship within the American citizenship context. It's just this, you come, you get your passport, and you get to stay no matter what the fuck you do. You can be an incorrigible just scammer, financial scammer. You could be a violent criminal. Nothing. Nothing until very, very recently. And that was purely because of the right-wing nationalist populist movement that elected Donald J. Trump.
He's still
Even
my
the
goat,
proposition
though.
He's what?
He's still my goat, though. Don't get it twisted.
No, we're playing truthing. We're truthing but verifying. In the Paca stream, Pop Alpaca, we truth, we chimp, we verify, we provide pushback where necessary. We have the cell phone numbers of several people in the administration. The alpaca is very powerful, and you people need to start recognizing the game that I'm shoving here, the game that I'm playing. We got direct lines into the admin. We're telling them exactly what kind of hype videos to make for their press releases. We're big shots. We're big money packers.
You old people don't understand the Zoomer Power Network. We are locked in. Code Ronald McDonald.
Message received.
Nation, if America is reducible to an idea that you can just say, I'm
No,
free
but America is inseparable from the idea.
Well, every family, every culture, every group has to have ideas.
And I don't think that America is just one of many. I don't think that we're of a kind with every other nation. We have a very unique founding. And our founding was intellectual in a way that the founding of most nations has not been intellectual. It was an experiment. There was an idea at the genesis of this country is also an idea.
Well, when was the genesis in your mind?
Well, the founding of the country is 250 years ago. And it was not a country before that.
Okay, so that might be where, so I think 1607 is where it really starts.
Tell me why.
And then, because that's when you have the first English settlers come to what is presently the United States.
But they were English settlers. They were they were subjects of the Crown of Britain.
So politically speaking, but culturally speaking, and the way that all the founders identified before they went to war with Great Britain was they were British subjects. And so they brought all of that with them into the formation of this new legal entity that they formed. So and I did a documentary on this called the 1607 Project. And we can keep talking about this if you want, but I think one of the things that's interesting about the discussion we're having is one of the knee-jerk reactions I've seen, and I'm not calling you a liberal, but I know that more liberal-minded people make this, is that if you define yourself as anything other than a proposition, it feels exclusive. It feels like you're being racist of some kind. You're saying a particular group and not other groups. And this has been the basis upon which people have gone after Christian nationalism and all the other things that we're going to probably talk about. But I do think, I'm obviously sitting here, there are things that I find concerning. I see hints of 19th century progressivism and bioreductionism, racial essentialism, things that are brought in from other foreign countries, like the neo-Nazi stuff is not sourced here. And those are things that I find very repulsive. There's also a lot of anti-biblical ideas floating around out there. And so I've made my stand on two things, really, that there's a political liability that is entering the Christian domain. And there's also a spiritual threat that's going on, especially in a rise in ecumenical thinking that, hey, as long as these guys are like anti-Israel or anti-Jewish or something like that, we can get together under the banner Christ is King, like Joel Evans' conference that's coming up. He's got people, one of his speakers thinks that there's a God in you, and everyone has one, and no God is better than the other, and he's going to be speaking under the banner of Christ is King, which is a deeply theological statement. If Christ is truly King, then we have to submit to him. He owns us, and this is the Christ of the Bible is a particular person. And so if you do a conference and the majority of your speakers are, I mean, he's Baptist pastor, they're not even Protestant. And then there's some that have very dubious actions and professions and connections to things that are not Christian, then what are you telling your audience? These are the people that know about Christ being King. Well, that's not Christianity. So I see that as a threat.
Oh, but that's because Christ is King is a political statement and not a religious statement.
Christ is Lord.
John handled that well, I think. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are, Bill, but my two takeaways are like, yeah, we need to dispense with this notion that everyone that's against Israel is for us. There are no friends. There are no friends on the planet that are not white and or Christian to the American heritage man. Like zero. And so like
I mean yeah. I've had the unfortunate problem of fraternizing forcibly with a Groiper, and it is enough to teach any man that they are truly subhuman. And unfortunately, he was Italian, which I don't know where in the Hamite line Italians come from, but they're somewhere in there. But you talk to these guys for 5 minutes, and it's like, oh, do you want political power? Do you want political power? That means you have to align with anybody who is anti-Jew. Like the Muslims, yeah, they're cool. Oh, you know, Nick Fuentes was making jokes with trannies. It's just because he's like, it's because he's funny and they don't like Israel. Like, don't you get it? It's like, no, actually, we don't operate under a big tent. There is a very clear delineation of who is our guy versus who is not. And it's, are you a white guy and or a Christian guy? And honestly, I would argue even to the point that you must be a Christian guy. I know some of our boys when the Mormon question came up a month or two ago, whenever that was, we're like, oh well, there are cultists. It's like no. As I told the one who showed up at my front door today in his gay little suit, looking all cute, thinking he's gonna convert me. I said, piss off, I'm working. I don't care. You are not part of my group. Go away. You do not fit in my umbrella that is like exclusively conservative in the old meaning Christian white man who's going to say, hey, this is my nation. We don't fit more people under it.
Yeah, and I hate going back to like the Aaron McIntyre but he says all politics is diaspora politics, and it's true. It's like I'm not going to link arms with the Muslims who have voted like 99% Democrat in favor of every policy that affects my life negatively for the last 20 years since they first got off the goddamn boat, and help them in their diasporic ethnic project of conquering the entire West and making the global caliphate. That's part of their eschatology. It's the same reason why I am like distrustful of Orthodox Jewish involvement in politics, is because their entire eschatology is, we're going to trick God into bringing about the apocalypse, in which everyone is going to like adhere to some sort of like Noahide laws, and we're now going to like enslave the Goyim. Like, it doesn't. None of that matters to me. I'm an American. God damn it.
Yeah, quote me on this. We will not win by any sort of like big tent inviting anyone in. We will win because Christ is king. He will bring a sword, destroy his enemies, redeem his people, and just bring in the new heaven and the new earth. We don't need coalition building because God wins. We are so back. We don't need anyone else. Christ is king. Okay? Shout out to the Raptors. I want to hear them shake. Christ is king. Nothing else matters. We win. As bleak as it looks, we are so back every single time.
Yeah, until the skies are rolled back like a scroll, and the trumpet sounds in the west, and the Son of Man descendeth on his white steed, with the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Until that day comes, I want to win down here. I want my people to exercise authority over their own lives. I want Christian, virtuous, masculine Christian hegemony. I don't want interlopers. I don't want foreigners with foreign gods telling us how to live, or what our forefathers really believed in their super secret Masonic ways. I don't want these people having influence over my life or my children's life. I don't want degeneracy, promoted. I don't want the Daily Wire cross-dressing. I don't want the Stephen Crowder Ranger panties. Even from the conservative side, I don't want Allie Beth Stuckey telling my wife what to do. Having some sort of like Enneagram test at some sort of girls club where it's like, oh, you're a 7. That means you gotta live your truth, girl. No, I don't want any of that. I want my people, and I want our traditions, and I want our history, and I want our I want us to rule ourselves. And that's what Jeremy can't fathom, is that there is a biological and spiritual connection that precedes generation. It flows from the genes and the blood of our forebears. It was created by thousands and thousands of years of faithful Christians, hundreds of generations of faithful Christian men, carving existence out of the black, building order out of the voids of chaos. And then we just inherit it and think like, oh, well, it got here because some people had some good ideas. No, it wasn't ideas. It was blood. It was sweat. It was tears. It was like fought for vigorously. That sword behind Jeremy, and that stupid gladius he has as a display item. No, that sword needs to not be on your desk table. That sword needs to be in your hand as you carve your destiny into the endless potential of the void. As we poke into space and conquer Mars and build lunar bases and be back. The white man is back, baby. Anyway, I got like 10 more minutes of this in me. Let's see where it goes.
It is a religious statement.
That's right.
That's a confession of faith.
I've actually argued this with some Catholic employees of mine, probably wasn't the smartest thing to talk about at work. But I said, Christ is king is not that's not a traditionally Christian statement. And he said, well, that's not true. I'm Catholic. We have lots of churches that are named Christ the King, and we have conferences Christ the King. I said, yeah, Christ the King is not what I'm saying. Christ is king is a political statement. Christ the King is a reference to Christ, who of course is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. I'm not saying that the idea that Christ is king is itself anathema to Christianity. Of course it isn't. We believe that Christ is king. But the expression Christ is king as a political statement is not the same as a church being named Christ the King. Right. It is a distinct concept. Christ is.
How about it's a war cry? It's not a political statement. It's a war cry. It's the same as Gaudium et Spes or Deus Vult or like king and country.
It's so far beyond a political statement. That would be a minimalization, which is the opposite of the way he is doing this. But Christ is king is literally what the stones, the cosmos, like the matter and stars screams. I don't understand how somebody like this cannot shake in their little TJ Maxx boots at the fact that God is coming back and he's going to crush you. No matter your gay little podcast you do with all of your select Twitter retards, at the end of the day, God is coming back and he's going to crush you. You can say that it's a political statement. You can try and quantify that. Oh, Christ the King is just... That's how you say that the church name is Christ the King. It's actually, my Bible says that he is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He is subject unto no one. He is over all. If you try and negate that in any fashion, you're just proving yourself a fool. Not that we need much proof.
True.
Is Lord. Of course, Jesus is Lord.
You could complete the sentence. Christ is king of the Jews.
Well, Christ is King of Kings. Christ is King of the Jews is a statement by Pilate.
Right.
I mean, it's not that's not a title that Jesus wore.
It's prophetic though. He's going to be seated on David's throne. I mean, this is that's the sort of irony of it, I suppose.
And he's ruling at the right hand of the Father, judging the quick and the dead. What are we talking about? The Bible is very clear about Jesus's eternal role in our lives and in our fundamental epistemology that governs our ethics.
Yeah, this is not arguments old Baptist church ladies would have. They would be like, "Oh, Sonny, don't you know Christ is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Everything is subject to him, even the Jews." It's what do you mean you're going to argue that? This isn't some far out theological argument. This is a statement of fact. It is a one sentence answer. Christ is King.
You get your salty on tape, and that's all you ever needed.
Just didn't like it,
right?
But Christ is King is the weaponization of Christianity in the public dialogue. It's pretty transparent.
Yep. It is, and it's high time. Yeah. It's high time we use the weapons at our disposal. If you're telling me that I got the sword of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, and I'm going to battle against midwits like you and a horde of liberals and foreigners with their demon gods, yeah, it is a weapon. It's literally a battle cry.
Not only is Christ King, he's already killed all of your gods. You were all that's left, and he is coming for you as well. So repent or die.
The oracles at the temple of Apollos, they see not.
Apparently that. And I wish everyone who said Christ is King had the courage to get on their live stream and also confess Christ is Lord and be held to that standard as opposed to the political standard they profess.
Christ is King and Christ is Lord. Over
Christ is King and Christ is Lord over every aspect of all of the cosmos, over every bit of my life, over literally everything that has ever existed and will exist. Christ is King and Lord, and Will Spencer is bald.
Yeah, it's Will, I'm a biological essentialist. How much more Calvinist do you think I can get? I think most things are laid out by God's fated path. Every single sparrow and every single dandelion in the field is under God's direct control and influence. He sees the whole of the time of the cosmos as a straight line, as a discrete object in some sort of hyperdimensional framework that we can't even comprehend. Yeah, Christ is King and Christ is Lord. We win.
He's king over that poor tree that was cursed to make the seat that your fat, girthy body was sitting upon in this video. He's king over all.
He's sitting there, nipples protruding, very disrespectful. Look at the biceps. He's got his arms curled. He's got his sleeves rolled up, showing his pagan tattoos. It's not good, not good at all.
Instead, that's right. Christ is King is of a kind with people shouting God is great in Arabic. Like, true enough. True enough, if you hear somebody shout it on a bus, you don't think amen. That's not like the first thing that comes to your mind.
He's right.
The theme of Matthew, though, is the kingship of Christ. Like, that is the theme of that gospel. So, I mean, there is truth in that. But the question is always, what Christ, and in what sense is he king? And if we water...
I may have treated you too harshly, John. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so
Just
proud of
proud
our
of
little Chud. He's trying so hard. He deserves some credit for this. He's faced with 3 retards, and he's at least trying to stand his ground.
Yeah, I'll tell the story. So I attended a conference, and John was a vendor at a conference. He was a panel speaker. And I believe in that. I'm of the suspicion that this was the conference that spooked John away from the greater right-wing Christian nationalist movement. And I think part of it was, I do think there's a financial component to this, an economic incentive, where he looked around at people who were modest in their lifestyles. These are mostly like trade guys. They're chuds. They're just normal people with an irresponsible amount of kids. Most of these people at this conference, they're not exactly the most like attractive, right? This is like, in the middle of the desert, those scrub grasslands in the middle of Texas. It's not an East Coast like fashion show, and John seemed fairly disgusted by being there, and it was something I took notice of, and I talked to John, I'm just tired and whatever, and I took note, because as soon as that conference was over is when he started having these very public fallouts with guys like me and Webben and everybody in our space except for Stephen Wolf, whose entire thing is just optics. And not manipulating, but working the levers to accumulate power for yourselves at like the most manageable levels possible, locally, state-wise, whatever. And that was it, and I think John has these post facto justifications for his alignment in this, and I think he's good as, like, when he stakes his flag in a position, he's great. And I think this is one of those ones where he is good. He's pushing back where needed. No, it's not a slur. Andrew Klavan is being retarded. Sorry, you don't get to you don't get to cajole me about a Christian battle cry from like the position of like having a gay son who's all that nonsense. John is staking a position on that. Where John fails, is following the logic of his own positions. Right? He's staking out a claim. It's like, no, Christ is king. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Is it some sort of like weird theonomic implementation of the Old Testament law, or does it mean like we start taking things seriously? What does the ressourcement mean? If we're going back to 1607, like, what if I believe exactly what my ancestors who arrived on the American continent in 1630 and 1680, what if I believe what they believe about things that are controversial, that don't necessarily align with the civil rights era, Warren Court, post-World War, liberal framework? What if I believe exactly what they believe? And so I think where John fails is in the ultimate entailments of the things that he promotes. And I think, not engaging with guys on our side who aren't retarded and are able to like articulate the positions pretty well, I think is kind of a way that John isolated himself, and is left with his podcast that's mostly visited by boomers and Gen X people that were disaffected by the Tim Keller, Al Mohler style of ecclesial church.
That means we're all anti-Israel.
Well, but I'm saying that it's not watering it down. It is its exclusive purpose as it is currently invoked. The invocation today of Christ as King in public discourse is not to advance Matthew's perspective on
the messianic claims of Christ.
It has nothing to do with Christ sitting on the throne of David. It's a political statement that's meant to be exclusionary.
Yep.
And it's a political statement that's both meant to exclude the Jews.
Yep.
You could say it's meant to exclude everyone who isn't Christian, but I don't actually think that's what it's meant to do, to your point. It's only meant to exclude the Jews.
No. Everyone.
And it's meant to undermine the idea of the American founding. It's a rejection of liberalism per se, of the entire idea of self-government or democratic government. It's a invocation of the idea of essentially a sort of integralist view that the church should run the government in a monarchical way.
Sure.
And those are the two ways that it's actually being invoked. It's not being invoked in any sort of...
Maybe from the big heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Like Mick Fuentes and Candace Owens. Or...
Of course, a lot of people use... And this is why I asked about...
Sir. No.
We've never once allowed the crazy Negro woman or the 5'3" twink midget to own our terms. This has been something that is declared from the foundation of the church, that Christ is king overall, even over time. Like there has never been a moment in time where Christ is not king. And it feels so willful to be like, oh, this is just purely political. No, it's not. You're just like rootless, and you don't understand the historical implications of Christ being king overall.
Yeah. It's the Candace Owens thing. The Candace Owens thing drives me insane, because it's like you get it from guys like Doyle too. It's like, the retard right with their Candace Owens. It's like, no, I'm a proud white guy with a college degree and is doing pretty well for himself. I have never once looked at Candace Owens and thought, man, I am really deficient in this area of my political and philosophical knowledge. I must defer to this insane black woman that screeches on a podcast. Actually, if we're going to go to the scoreboard here, that was the Daily Wire that did that. The Daily Wire picked Candace out of obscurity when she was running her leftist doxing site and then was doing all these like casting calls for an agency in New York. It was the Daily Wire that was like, we can have like a conservative conservative black woman, and she'll finally convince black people to join our big tent with her incisive wit and facts and logic. And it was me that was like, I don't care what she says, mainly because I'm prejudicial against a lot of the stuff that she is. So no. And I was vindicated. You can't put Candace Owens on me. That was y'all. That was the Daily Wire. What are we talking about?
Politicians in the term Christian nationalism. A lot of people end up using terms that they don't know what the connotative meaning of the term is. And so, I've said this before, not every Catholic is an integralist. In fact, most Catholics have never heard the term Catholic integralism. And not every Catholic who uses the term Catholic integralist is a Catholic integralist. It's a term that becomes popular in the vernacular, and it seems to mean that you think Catholicism is integral to life. And so, of course, you go, well, yeah, I'm one of those. I take my Catholicism very seriously. It's like, well, yeah, but you're associating yourself now with an intellectual and philosophical movement.
It operates like Black Lives Matter.
Exactly.
Same thing. And that's been deployed with, it could be white in some other scenarios where the point is to get you to do a dialogue, kind of like you just did, which will be clipped. And you know that. To say like, Jeremy Boring denies that Christ is king. He says when you say Christ is, if you think Christ is king, that means, that you deny America or something, right? But you're right. It's the same way. It's like, well, I don't support Black Lives Matter. Do you think Black Lives don't matter?
That's
right.
Yeah.
And for people that are honest, they can tell that's happening. But the internet spaces that we all live and swim in are not honest spaces. And you're not dealing.
Bill, I gotta pee. Entertain the people.
Very much so. I think it's interesting where he's talking here. It's like, Black Lives Matter is this thing like we all heard the shtick at the time. It was like, you don't believe Black Lives Matter? Like you're not supporting the movement. You don't support Black Lives Matter. And it's like, no, we all know that God has assigned value to the life of a man. What we're arguing is your political ethos for doing it. Whereas with Christian nationalism or saying Christ is king, we are assenting a fact that is before any preconceived notion. It is like a pre-logical fact. It is just from the dawn of creation, Christ has been king. We could easily argue that the voice of Jesus Christ is what spoke all of creation into existence. It is without doubt that Christ is king by the evidence of being the creator. He is the owner of all creation. He is the King of Kings in that. If you're saying Black Lives Matter, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. If you say Christ is king, everybody knows that you're talking about Jesus is the Lord of all men, of all time, of every government, of every king.
Correct. Bill, What's your tolerance level for more of this nonsense? Are you ready to wrap it up?
I'm so good for whenever.
Do you want to keep going? We've done 33 minutes of show with of boring with with an hour and 30 minutes of commentary. We've somehow time dilated these idiots.
We should just have HHC on the show just so we can ask him where he gets his little gay Warby Parker glasses and why his lip looks like that.
Oh my gosh! YouTube hasn't even done the analytics to figure out where people pause and stuff. I'm sure there'll be clips from this. I'm sure.
I'm just so glad we haven't had to hear Will Spencer speak hardly at all. Thank the Lord for the blessing of being able to mock foolish enemies just like Elijah, and also for the blessing of not hearing Will Spencer, Dr. Eggman, give his evil speech.
Let's skip ahead to some Spencer.
The reading that I've done, and since my experience a couple years ago, I decided that it wasn't simply enough to not be wrong. I wanted to be right. So I started reading a lot, and I went on a journey of reading. And so I mentioned I started with the book Black Sun.
I think Antelope Hill might have been able to help him out with this stuff. Oh, I read all these secondary commentary sources that were describing exactly how evil and bad and untheologically sound all these guys were, and they were reference materials. But I didn't actually go to the primary source materials. Did you know that there's this Tish Rotten with a bunch of Nazi guys where they were making fun of stuff because it's table talk and everyone's drunk and bullshitting anyway. Fuck you, Will Spencer.
Warrant for Genocide, which is about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion by Norman Cohn. That led me to a book called The Plot, which is a graphic novel version about the history of the Protocols, which we can get into. That led me to Remember About the Jews.
I bet this guy's never read the Bible. He just read the Action Bible.
The anime version.
Oh, shout out to Roman J. Shaman.
Imagine the panel for when Elisha, or was it Elisha or Elijah, sends the bears after the kids. Go on.
Oh, my boy Elisha. Yeah, Will has that bookmark. He reads it when he's after this podcast. If he sees it, he's gonna be reading it. I promise.
So these boys, they called me bald, and I sent a bunch of she bears after them.
It was another show. I sent the she bears after them for my last $20.
Kill All Normies by Angela Nagel. And finally, It Came From Something Awful by Dale Barron, which is an excellent book. And over this whole journey, I've been
4 books. All commentary resources, no primary resources. Excellent scholarship, Will Spencer. Great job, Mr. Eggman. You are an expert in convincing the normies that you are not a vapid moron.
I've been trying to understand these ideas that seem to emerge in the post-war kind of era. They've traveled over the past 70 years into our dialogue today, and they've had a distinct trajectory. And so I think when people say it's a reaction to liberalism, I think there is some truth to that, perhaps priming, but I think there's also been a strand running through, it's been the American right. I don't think the politics themselves are right-leaning, but it has been within the American right that's there ready and willing and waiting to be like, hey, you're asking questions, guess what? We have all the answers for you. And so these young men, driven by their disillusionment, bitterness, fatherlessness, in many cases, churchlessness, fall into this morass of
I have a father. I saw him today. He's doing quite well. I have a church. I'm an upstanding member. I'm a member in good standing in a church. All of them. Living in my parents' basement. No, my house is bigger than yours, Will. I have more money than you. What's the next one? Get me with the next one. Try to find.
What's really embarrassing is I also have more money than him. Very likely. I did see my father too, and he's not bald. It's incredible. But I think my favorite part about this so far is have we seen a single clip from this Tucker episode? There hasn't been anything. I haven't even watched the J.D. Hall episode. And I'm sorry I didn't marry a repentant whore, but overall I like J.D. He seems like a cool enough guy. So where's the clip from this? We're arguing about it, but we have not hit one thing where they've actually talked about what we're outraged about.
Yeah, JD's a homie. And he's a guy where I could say things that are off the wall, and because I do that, I like to shake the tree a little bit. I'll say something that's insane and then back down my position to something more reasonable to try to, as a rhetorical tactic. But JD's a guy that doesn't shy away from, polemic or controversial speech. He says things that I don't particularly agree with, like the glazing of the Ottoman Empire. I think he was trying to play to Tucker in that part, that the clip that everyone saw. I don't think, maybe he's doubled down and I'm just bullshitting at this point, but I don't think he's actually insinuating that like Muslims are particularly kind to Christians. They're still daimi, they're still paying the jizya. They were castrated and enslaved and raped en masse and forced to fight their own family as janissaries for the Turks. Like the history of Vlad Tepes, voivod of Wallachia. Like, there's a lot of Christian lore specifically around fighting the Turks. In the Reformed Protestant, you have Zwingli, right? It's like, like,
I would argue that JD approaches this from a good angle, just because the normie brain can't understand the complexities of that at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, we clearly can't even understand the complexities of dealing with Israel as a greatest ally, quote unquote. But we're going to talk about how the Ottoman Turks at one time are a boon to Christians, and at another time are making your sons sex slaves and janissaries. Like, you guys aren't going to be able to digest this in one episode of Tucker Carlson show. How about we just say what is prominent to the topic, and then we can dig into this later. We don't have to fight over every little thing. It's like at a certain point in history, yes, the Ottomans were a boon to the Christians. At the end of the day, the Christians win. The Ottomans are dead. So who cares?
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? Is like history is complex and full of nuance, and like, even among all of the atrocities the Islamic world and the Caliphate committed against Europe and Christians in Palestine, they still rebuilt, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and preserved a lot of our landmarks, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have them, right? And Israel is shown to be, of a similar vein, where it's like there's going to be some parts of history where it's convenient, and they're going to treat Christians, and especially Palestinian Christians, who are literally, they've done genetic testing on this, they are literally direct descendants of the first century church, right? These Christians have been Christians since like Peter was appointed like the first bishop. Okay, so like and Israel's not all that kind to them, and doesn't really shy away from like blowing up old buildings. And so I think like comparing the Ottomans to the Israel Empire is not the worst comparison. I just wish, to your point, like that was the clip that everyone's going to run with now, that no one is going to address the theology imposed in that discussion, saying like, no, there is no Christian Zionism that is required by Scripture.
Yeah. It's like I'm fully, to some point, comfortable with my boomer grandparents going to Israel because they want to do the Holy Land tour. It's like, you're probably going to go see. I mean, they're going to get their shekels out of you going to see all the cool stuff. And someday I'd like to do that too. I mean, in a Christian Jerusalem. But I would love to go see all that. And I think you're probably not going to be like murdered going over there to visit and see the Shrine of the Holy Sepulchre and like all of that stuff. But at the same time, I obviously know that they are not my friends. Like, they do not have my best interests in mind. If we can apply that same understanding logic to the Ottoman Empire at the time, then it makes sense what J.D. Hall is saying.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we can crawl for more Will Spencer, Kino. I don't care anymore about any of this. These people are not, like, John is the most sophisticated person here, and I feel like I could probably easily not to dock their white post, but I'm pretty sure I could probably trounce John in the debate about really any of these subjects. These are mental midgets, all kvetching on Jeremy Boring's ample dime that he has, and like, look at these books in the background. Like, I wonder if we could zoom in and see how nonsensical these books are. Like, perfectly clear.
Yeah, it would be so good.
But we're gonna go to the questions of the people. So I'm going to knock this shit off here. Someone, Sir Walrus Butt. 556.
We have 267 retards watching this. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And then on YouTube we have what are some books or resources you've read and parse through to learn all of this stuff. Starting point, perhaps, for learning. Um, my journey was I started this kind of quest during BLM, and I realized like the things that people were telling me in church were not necessarily in line with the historical canon, and then I started reading books in my faith tradition that were older than 1960. I went back to Dabney in the Defense of Virginia, and I read Sacred Rhetoric, and then I kept going, and you just keep going through the historical canon until you get to Plato and Aristotle. You're starting to read Nicomachean Ethics and some of the classics that were skipped, curiously enough, in high school, and you get to a position where it's like, maybe the ideas that these people are talking about, even in like controversial settings, are important, and then you feel justified in picking up some of those real naughty Antelope Hill books and saying like, I'm gonna actually read this just to see what these guys were actually talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same argument, kind of in my line, is once again, do the reading. You have no excuse as a Christian man in the year of our Lord 2026 not to be historically literate. Read like even easy books like White Horse King. Understand where England came from and the progenitor of England being Alfred the Great. Read Aristotle. Read Plato. Read just theologians who didn't live in the 1860s and to the present. It's not hard. The history's there. It's very easy to find. Dabney's great too. Like, read the great American theologians like Dabney, not the ones that have been in the last 100 years. All you have to do is just go out of your way to find stuff. Like, just don't be gay. Read Googe.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, and obviously Stephen Wolfe. I would recommend Michael Spangler, his essays and books. Yeah, and once you're there, there's this weird notion that you're not allowed to engage with controversial ideas on things that are outside the current zeitgeist of post-war liberalism. You're not allowed to like even think about what a biblical anthropology might look like that would explain the disparate behaviors of different races in different time periods. You're not allowed to look at like what is the actual history of the 20th century and who were these people that completely gave us the idea of creedal and propositional nation. Where do those terms come from? So I think like once you start going for the genetics of an idea and really parsing that apart, it becomes a lot clearer.
Yeah, I mean, digging into Flavel, digging into the Puritans, you can see what they actually thought as like the progenitor of the Americas, and it's completely different than what you read in your middle school textbook.
Yep. All right, Bill. Now, what's a song to play us out to here?
That's hard. I'm thinking a little Creed. What's your favorite Creed, Pekka?
Hello, my friend, we meet again. Been a while, where's your wings at? Feels like forever. Is that what you were thinking about?
It's beautiful. It melts my heart, my little white boy heart.
Do you want to plug anything?
I just want to plug all the boys. They know exactly who they are. I'm not going to tell you who they are. Shout out to the #1 group chat. They know exactly who they are, and you guys don't. Follow me for me not posting at all. And shout out to Pekka for being the #1 quadrupedal animal to ever be farmed.
So true, King. And yeah, I'm Pop Alpaca. If you found me on YouTube, it's at Dada Alpaca on X. Shout out to all the boys. Go follow them. William Swollis, William Wolfe, Stephen Wolfe, I don't know, JD Hall. Go follow some people. As for me, this has been Pack-A-Cast, the official White Boy Summer podcast. Pack-A out.